you ever made a list of everything you do around the house for your family? Probably not, because by the time you finish detailing every brain sucking, time zapping, practically invisible domestic responsibility, you'd have forgotten why you started the list in the first place. We're going to talk about 4 things that will help you to do just that will help you to develop a new awareness and a new language, even for thinking about domestic life, so that you and your husband can come together as equals to work a practical plan of action for conquering that mountain of laundry or that pile of dishes.
You and me, we could be on top of the world.
Hi, I'm Ramona Zabriskie, and I should have known while I was dating my guy that keeping house with him around was going to be an uphill battle. I remember finding his 3-piece suit dangling on his bedstead instead of closet, and finding a 3-day-old casserole deteriorating on the stove. Why I didn't see this as foreshadowing, I'll never know. Sure, I'd love to marry you, and picking up after you for the rest of my life will be an honor. Here are the 4 life lessons that I have learned about husbands and housework. And in the last one, I'm actually going to show you the language that will help you more effectively recruit his involvement. Number 1, change your perspective instead of the sheets. If you are hesitant to ask for his help, for his contribution and participation in the housework, or he's hesitant to offer it because, get this, he works so hard. He has so much on his plate. He needs his downtime. If that's the rationale, then I have just one question, maybe a couple questions for both of you. Where did you get the notion that his time is somehow more important or more valuable than your time? And where did you get the idea that his passions should take priority while yours just kind of get squeezed in around the edges? Last time I checked, a minute is a minute is a minute, and your time isn't infinite somehow, and his is finite. Can you tell me that you don't work just as hard? That you don't have more on your plate than he can possibly imagine? That you don't need your downtime, your time to pursue your interests and your passions? Listen, sister, what good is a tidy house if you're a mess? Ready for this? Stop the presses. Your husband doesn't want you to be a mess. He wants you to be happy. Most husbands are caring that way. And there's no getting around the fact that your sense of well-being is going to directly affect his, because marriage is a partnership. So, although you'd prefer, and he would prefer, to be spared the additional bother and weight of more responsibility, if you will explain to him how changing the status quo is going to change you for the much, much better, that may be all the rationale he needs to pick up the mop. Number 2, shine up your attitude instead of the mirrors. Are you asking him to strip the wax floor and then stripping him of the satisfaction by lording over him like some kind of subservient, or criticizing him like a child? If you want him to get involved and stay involved in keeping the house clean and the laundry up and all the equipment running necessarily to that end and the family running like a well-oiled machine, then I wouldn't advise kicking the mop out from under him. I admit, it took me a while to wise up, but finally, after all the years of unfolded laundry and unmade beds, I just had to throw out that holier than thou kind of attitude, all my preaching, my judgment about his timing or his skills or his approach to the chores. It never really helped the outcome of the chore, let alone our marriage, right? And all that snippy, self righteous kind of attitude, well, it kept me actually got in the way of me being able to recognize that there were some things sometimes that he actually did better or more efficiently than I did. So I started letting him be him, intentionally appreciating his attempts, however imperfect by my standards. And guess what? He actually was glad to do his fair share after that, lightening my load because I lightened up on my attitude. My advice? Cut him some slack and not attack. Number 3, organize your approach instead of the closet. Of course, I know there are guys who are neater than their wives, and there are other men who just refuse to do women's work. But most men, most well-intentioned guys, are somewhere in the middle, sort of bewildered by the expectations of overwhelmed working women and exhausted stay-at-home partners. So try this. Although he may occasionally spontaneously, just jump in and pick up the toys or run the vacuum across the living room rug, don't count on it. Don't count on it and then get all knotted up with frustration and resentment and disappointment when he doesn't do it. Instead, we're going to have a whole new approach now to this whole mess. First, think about what you really want from him, from this situation. Are you hoping to eliminate resentment and engender a little more positivity in the family? Or is achieving fairness and equality the most important thing to you? Maybe you're actually okay with doing the bulk of the chores and just need more appreciation. Or do you believe that it's a better way to raise the kids for everyone to be involved in the housework, including dad? I assume it's a combination of those reasons and maybe others, just topped off with a real desire to have just a little more time for yourself. Just let it soak for a bit until you're crystal clear, just clear as glass, as to what your real motivations are. Now it's time to invite him to sit down with you, and you're going to make this list of everything that needs to be done, all the things that have to be done because they hold value to your family. Now, a list is okay, but even better would be to put each of those tasks or each of those chores on an individual index card, including how often it needs doing. Also, write out as much detail as possible about what that task includes and the standard you agree on. For instance, I don't think it'll eliminate the wars over chores if your husband picks up the clean fridge card but doesn't bother removing the shelves or the drawers for a really deep cleaning. So work together on the standards for each task by articulating the details. Now you divvy up the list or those cards as fairly as you can. You're going to have to negotiate a little bit, right? And then politely and cooperatively, in a good faith, you're going to hold each other accountable. Hey, hun, I assume you got the oil changed. Wait a minute, did you forget something? Hey, hun, I assume you got the oil changed? Thanks for that. It's just so important to cheer each other on, to really, intentionally notice, praise, thank each other for the most elementary, everyday kind of tasks. Okay, so you have proactively organized yourselves in this way, and that should keep things humming pretty well for the long haul. Though occasionally you're gonna have to, step back, rearrange, renegotiate, redistribute those cards a little bit according to changing circumstances. Happy households are not so much about deodorizing and dusting as they are about flexibility and forgiveness. Number 4, smooth out your communication instead of the ironing. Now, if you need his help in the short term, like a new chore has come up, who's going to take this puppy out to pee every morning? I do not have the bandwidth for a puppy bath night. Puppy pee on the carpet! Here's my revolutionary suggestion. Just ask. But when you ask, be sure that you're not vacillating between being demanding, get over here and clean up this puppy pee, manipulative or whiny. Jack next door would have had their puppy's puddle cleaned up before Mary ever even knew it happened. Testing or hint dropping. Oh, my aching wrist. It's going to hurt so much to clean up this mess. Or being overly polite or apologetic. I'm so sorry to ask. I know it's not your favorite chore, but if you don't mind, if you have a minute, if it's not too much trouble, can you clean up Puppy's accident, please? In the Wife Savers course and community, we learn and practice a whole skill set, a whole communication style called the language of respect, which is incredibly helpful at helping us avoid being demanding, naggy, whiny, complaining, and manipulative, all those things that may ultimately get the chore done, but don't do much for the relationship. There is a better chance of keeping the peace while you're keeping house if you will be just as direct and clear and succinct with him as possible, especially when it comes to an immediate or unanticipated need. Hey, honey, I'd really appreciate it if you would take care of the dishes tonight. Will you do that? Thank you. And thank you for watching. I hope that you're going to dust off your best, most confident self and really advocate with your husband for a better run, much more fun household. Share some of your ideas and your experience and maybe your questions in the comments below. You can also find in the description box below all of my other incredibly helpful resources, including my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons, which will really add a lot to what we've talked about today, as well as my free ebook, 5 Lies We Tell Brides and 5 Truths That Save Wives, and the book that started it all, Wife for Life, The Power to Succeed in Marriage, winner of multiple prestigious awards. All right, as always, it's just so much fun to be your wife saver. I'll see you next time.
You